Welcome, fellow Stardust. Are you ready for a scare? I see you've come back for more. If you're new here, buckle up. And thank you for joining me today. My name is DeRay, aka Rainbow Fright, lover of all things dark, creepy, and weird. Today's movie reviews will be on the Addams Family movies.
May I have the salt?
What do we say?
Now.
So I decided to include both of the Addams Family movies as a part of my Christina Ricci month, and doing them in one video made the most sense. And I chose these films because they were childhood favorites of mine. And with the new live action series coming out, I thought it would be fun to revisit these. This new series will be released on Netflix sometime this year, and it's going to follow Wednesday, who is a high school student who, quote, attempts to master psychic powers, stop a monstrous killing spree of the town's citizens, and solve the supernatural mystery that affected her family 25 years ago, all while navigating her new relationships. Tim Burton will be directing, which makes me, and I'm sure everyone else, super excited. Everyone always assumes that Tim Burton directed both of these films because of the visual style, but in fact, it was first-time director Barry Sonnenfeld who was very much inspired by Tim Burton. Jenna Ortega, who is in the new Scream film, will be playing Wednesday, which is a choice I definitely approve of. She was also really great in the second season of You. And like last week, for this review video, I'll be focusing more on my thoughts and feelings about the movies. And if you want more info on the making of the films, you can check out my video from last Thursday, 10 fun facts about the Addams Family movies. So let's go ahead and get into these brief summaries, and then we can chat about them. In the first film, we begin with Gomez lamenting over his long-lost brother, Fester, who has been missing for 25 years after a feud they had over Fester's ability to woo any woman. Gomez's lawyer, Tully, a con artist, tries to steal the Addams' fortune in order to pay his debt to a loan shark, Abigail. Because Abigail's adoptive son, Gordon, looks a lot like Fester, Tully thinks he can convince the Addamses that he's their long-lost relative, and in turn gain access to their fortune. But after some doubt here and there, it turns out that Gordon is in fact Fester, and was found by Abigail in the Bermuda Triangle 25 years ago, and had suffered from amnesia. The film ends with Morticia announcing to Gomez that she will be having another baby. The second film opens with everyone hanging out at home when Morticia goes into labor and gives birth to Pubert. Because Wednesday and Pugsley think one of them will now be killed, they try numerous times to kill Pubert, prompting Gomez and Morticia to hire a nanny, Debbie. However, Debbie is a homicidal maniac who seduces wealthy men and murders them to inherit their fortune. Although she was successful at sending the kids off to summer camp so she could seduce Fester without Wednesday meddling, she was unsuccessful at murdering him. In her final attempt to kill Fester, she sets out to electrocute him, along with his entire family. But Pubert saves the day by reversing the electrical shock, turning Debbie into ash. Rewatching these films was a blast from the past. It's crazy to think that I basically grew up watching Christina Ricci grow up on the screen. I haven't seen every Christina Ricci film, but the ones that I did watch stuck with me for life and impacted me in a big way when I was growing up. My go-to Ricci films were Mermaids, the Addams Family movies, Casper, and Now and Then. And for some reason, I never watched Gold Diggers, but I do want to go back and watch that one. I've always loved scary stories and horror movies. I can't even really remember my first horror movie because I was watching them from such an early age. To think about the films that I was watching at the time in that group of movies, there were things like Cujo, Lost Boys, The Blob, Beetlejuice, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Poltergeist, and Pet Sematary. As a kid, I fell in love with Winona Ryder because of films like Lucas, Beetlejuice, Heathers, and of course Edward Scissorhands. She was the first person that I recognized as a sort of horror queen. Of course, there was Jamie Lee Curtis, Dee Wallace, Barbara Crampton, and a bunch of other established horror queens, but they weren't really on my radar. Winona was the first that I noticed who was sort of in real life that dark and solemn character that she often played. And she was closer to my age. I could easily do a Winona horror month as well. The horror, dark, and weird scripts seemed to gravitate toward her. Christina Ricci, on the other hand, wasn't necessarily a horror queen early on in her career like Winona, but she was always the cool kid, even in Mermaids. When she became an adult, she was interested in doing roles that were new and different, not your typical run-of-the-mill roles. So the dark and weird started to roll in, with titles like Buffalo 66, Sleepy Hollow, Bless the Child, The Gathering, Pumpkin, and Afterlife. The Addams Family movies were the perfect introduction into horror for Christina. Both films were perfectly cast from top to bottom. The day that Christina auditioned for the role of Wednesday, she had already been auditioning all day and was tired. So she had asked her mom if they could skip that audition, but her mom told her no. She had been a huge fan of the series in the 60s and really wanted Christina to be in this movie. But she told Christina that it would be okay for her to have low energy and to even be a bit difficult because that was part of Wednesday's character. With that bit of information, Christina was down to go and she nailed the audition. Christina doesn't like to give herself too much credit for the role of Wednesday because she says she just did what was on the script and what was asked of her from the director. However, me and a bunch of her fans believe that she delivers something that nobody else would be able to deliver. The Addams Family are a group of misfits who don't care about what people think. They stay true to themselves and show the audience that it's okay to be different from the status quo, but still have those basic needs of familial love and companionship. It also teaches us that even though one might like the spooky and macabre, that they can still be vulnerable and be hurt. The films made us question gender, what it means to be happy, and what it means to be normal. In the first film, we had Tully, who was unsuccessful in life with a wife who is disappointed in him. By the end of the movie, he loses and is buried alive because he was chasing the American dream and cut corners on the way. On the other hand, there was Gomez and Morticia, who have inherited their wealth and don't have to work. Because they have little responsibilities, their free time is spent on hobbies and with each other. Whereas your typical American wealthy family would try to figure out how to turn that money into power or how to turn it into even more money. Gomez does like to grow his money, but it doesn't fully consume him. In the second film, American beliefs and values are fully attacked, which is evident right away in the title. They continue to challenge ideas that are widely accepted as truths. The Thanksgiving play at Camp Chippewa is a perfect example to bring up. That scene unapologetically explains to its audience that the American school system has failed us, and the ugly truth behind the birth of this nation must be told. As a little tiny woke child under 10 years old watching this, it was empowering to see such mainstream media attacking such a taboo topic. It gave me hope that we could see change a lot sooner rather than later. However, since the release of these films, we have taken a few steps back. There has been some major progress, but honestly, not enough. While both movies are horror comedies, the second film leaned more into the comedy and gave us more of a spectacle with all of the visuals. In the first film, it was more like an introduction to all the characters for old and new fans of the series and cartoons. Fester had become Gomez's brother instead of the brother of Morticia's mother, and Grandmama became the mother of Morticia instead of Gomez. And we get to learn every character and figure out what makes them unique. I would have to say that I like both films equally. Values does get a lot more praise and recognition, but compared to the first film, it was a box office flop, which I find really interesting and go into more detail in my Thursday video. Addams Family Values gave people the opportunity to see this dark and spooky family go out into the real world with all the normies, which is something that I think people really enjoyed. Let me know in the comments and tell me what your favorite Addams Family movie is. It doesn't have to be one of these two, although it probably will be. We especially liked seeing Wednesday be a little bit more human when she falls for Joel. Up until this point, we assumed she had no other emotions other than contentment and hatred. This goes back to what I said earlier. No matter how cold-blooded or evil at first glance an Addams might seem, they are no different from the next person who just craves to love and be loved. Both films earned 4.5 Rainbow Skulls, and these are the perfect films to watch with the entire family. And it's even fun just for an adult to watch alone if they want to watch something light and fun but with a little bit of creep. You can find the first film on Peacock, Amazon, YouTube, and Apple, and the second film will be on Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, and Apple. Well, thank you again for joining me today, fellow Stardust. I appreciate you being here with me. I'll be back later this week with another trivia video and review video for subscriber request Baskin. Typically, I will not be uploading on Mondays like I did today, but because I had my Scream review last Friday, I went ahead and pushed this one back to Monday. But typically, I will be uploading every Thursday and Friday. So, if you haven't already, go ahead and hop on the Rainbow Fright Freight Train and hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell. That way, you'll get notified every time I upload a new video. I hope I see you next time. Peace.